Okay, simple project for today's video. We're using polymer clay and these leaf molds that I got from Shein recently. You probably saw the unboxing video that I shared last week. The polymer clay was a set that I got for Christmas. It's just got H&S on the box, that's all. So I've chosen autumn colours. So I've got some different shades of orange, brown, yellow, that kind of stuff. Now this clay, I've had a quick go here because this clay is very, very soft, and that makes it really difficult because it sticks to your fingers when you try to press it in the mold, and the mold is really shallow. So I wanted to have a quick go and try and figure out a technique that worked best because I've never done this before. So I did have a go off camera so that I could just kind of have a go at that. What I'm probably going to do when I've made a few more leaves is to get my brush and my mica powders and just go over the top to give them a metallic finish. So once I've done that, I'm going to slightly shape them so that they're not completely flat, and then I will get them in the oven to bake. So yeah, kind of takes a bit of time because you've got to condition the clay, but this clay really does not take very long at all to condition. It's just so soft. I'm going to go with the brown next. And just to condition this, I just basically squidge it around a little bit for a couple of minutes. It doesn't even need that long a lot of the time. Now you do not need much clay with these molds because, as I said, they are incredibly shallow. This is the mold that came with one of my pumpkin pot molds, and these are 2 of the 4 that I bought just of leaves. So you can see this clay is already super soft, and the softer it is, the more it sticks to your fingers, and it's a little bit of a nightmare, to be honest. So I'm just gonna, it's already very sticky. I'm not overly worried about the backs of these. I'm trying to make them squash, but the way that I'm doing this is to kind of push in a tapping motion. So I'm sorry if that's making my camera shake. I'm still on a tabletop tripod here, but I'm just trying to push it into the edges first so that we get that nice beveled edge on the leaves. And that's kind of it really. I just gently work it into those areas. If it overshoots, I just kind of go back and tap it. When I get it out of the mold, I'll check it and use a scalpel blade to just trim off anything that's gone over that beveled edge. And I'm leaving it a little bit domed purely because I am very concerned that these are going to be so thin that they're going to break. They're going to be very fragile. So kind of like that. You can try to sort of smooth over that a little bit if you want to, and then just carefully peel that out, and we have a leaf. So as I said, very soft, very sticky. So one thing that you can do as well is to use one of the modelling tools, and rather than cutting the excess, just push it and exaggerate the curve around the edge of these. I guess these are based on oak leaves. So you can just squish that in rather than cutting it because it gives you a smoother edge. So I'm kind of getting more of a feel for how much to use, and it's not a lot, really not a lot. So I'm kind of just going to repeat this with a couple of different colours, couple of different leaf designs. So I'm probably just going to put this on time lapse, to be honest, because there's not really much more I can say other than push it into the mould and smooth it. That's the whole thing at this stage. So once they were all done, I then got out my mica powders. So I used just straight coloured mica powder rather than any that had colour shift. So I initially started off by covering each one in a corresponding colour. So here you can see me adding yellow to the yellow leaves. I used my orange on the orange leaves and my kind of dark purplish red on those red ones. But then I went in and started adding some dual or even 3 colours to each one. So I was thinking about adding darker colours on the centre just to give it more dimension, and then I was using the yellow to kind of highlight the tips on some of the leaves, orange to highlight the tips on some of the leaves, just to give it way more dimension. Now I was doing this very gently because you don't want to add bristle strokes into this soft polymer clay, but the result of this was just giving it a really beautiful, almost slightly metallic sheen, which looked really pretty. So just go with whatever colours you like and think about how autumn leaves look when they're starting to change. They're not usually a uniform colour. Even when they drop to the ground, some of them are multicoloured. So by doing that, it adds dimension to the colour, but I'm also in a minute going to kind of shape the leaves a little bit to give them even more dimension. So this is the leaves when I'd finished with the colour. You can see they're all still flat on the mat at the moment. So the next step was to take each of these and carefully bend them so that they had a bit of a 3-dimensional shape, kind of have the edges looking like they're curling up or bits pointing down, bits pointing up, and that just gives them way more dimension. So we've got the colour adding dimension and then these little shapes adding dimension. Once I'd done that, they went into the oven. I followed the instructions on the packet. As always with polymer clay, for me, things didn't quite work out, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. Okay, it's been 24 hours since I baked these. This particular polymer clay, I'm still having trouble with getting it to properly cure. It was in the oven for absolutely hours and it's still, if I bend it, it just doesn't snap, it just kind of comes apart. And I've worked with this stuff before and even 6 hours of baking just doesn't ever make it cure. So what I'm going to do is top it with UV resin. UV resin top coating is not my favourite thing, but I've just practiced on some mini potion bottles. I've got some J. Diction UV resin in my bowl here and I'm actually going to paint it on with a makeup brush that is a spare one that I don't use, and that will allow me to get a really thin coat on here, hopefully without the blobbing and stretching issues that I've had before when I top coat. I always end up with kind of really blobby messes is the only way to describe it. I've just never been very good at top coating, but this is the first time I've used a bristle brush to spread the resin out to get a really thin coat. So I'll see how that works. It gives it a lovely shiny finish. You may or may not want that. Sometimes I prefer a matte finish, but just depends on the project. So I'm just putting the thinnest coat first. My nail lamp is not the best, so a thick layer of resin just doesn't cure properly. What tends to happen is the top gets a skin, the underneath gets hot and starts pouring out of everywhere, which is just not particularly good. So I just get that one under there while I paint a couple of these others, and I may have to go in again and do another coat just for strength purposes, but this brushing technique, I'm really hoping will mean that I don't have the cloddy mess that I've had with almost every other top coating project that I've been involved with. So it's in initially for 90 seconds because that's the only option my lamp has. Said it's not very good. It's really not very good. One of the buttons is stuck down. The other buttons, when you push them, will do 90 seconds whether you want it or not. So it's I really need to put a new UV lamp on my Christmas list. So I'm doing this in small batches just in case there's any spill from that lamp getting into my bowl of resin here. Done that before where I've accidentally cured all the stuff that I've got in my bowl, so I'm keeping it slightly away from the lamp. So the shiny finish does really bring out the mica powder. I haven't used colour shifting micas, but this top coating with something shiny will really make colour shifting micas pop. So if you do have colour shifts in your leaves, if you do something like this, the top coat will really emphasise that. So I continued to do this. I did multiple layers on the top. So I think I did 3 or possibly 4 thin layers of resin on the tops of the leaves, turned it over onto the back and did the same thing on the back of them, adding a slightly thicker layer there, hoping that being sandwiched between 2 layers of UV resin would make these much, much stronger. Once I'd done that, I decided to have a go at water curing. Some of them still felt a bit sticky despite kind of 7-8 minutes under the lamp. So I put them in a bowl of water, sat the bowl of water on top of a mirror, and then used the UV lamp on top of that. And that bounces the UV around and gets to places that the lamp alone may have missed. I got that tip from Daniel Cooper, so thank you, Daniel. And once they were dry, I took my little hand drill and just made a really small hole in all of them. And once they'd all been drilled, I just used some pinch bales, intending to make these into pendants and earrings. But while I was drilling them, I could see that they were just too brittle. And the drill was basically just pushing through without any resistance. So I knew that they were not actually going to be strong enough to be turned into anything. But I put the pinch bales on so you could get the idea of what they would look like had I not messed up the curing process again. So here they all are with the pinch bales on, paired up as if I was going to turn some into earrings and others into pendants. Honestly, these are just too fragile for me to be able to use these as jewellery in any form, even with the UV resin on top. They're just not strong enough. They're just too brittle. They're too fragile. And I'm genuinely gutted about that because I love these so much. I love everything about them. I added a little bit of gilding wax in gold on the tips of some of these. These are not colours that normally make my heart sing, but these just work. I just think they're so dimensional. They're so pretty. They just make me think of crunching through autumn leaves, and they're lovely. So I want to try this again, but I'm going to get myself some branded polymer clay because I suspect that the brand that I've got, this unbranded one, is just not behaving as it should. Yeah, it was impossible to find any information about that specific brand online, but I think it came via Amazon. So I'm going to get myself some decent polymer clay and have another go at this. But thanks again to Claire's Crafty Corner for the inspiration on this. I'll have her video linked below for you to check out what she did with stuff that actually cured properly. Okay, I had an idea to put these leaves on a thread, just with a bead holding the string in place, and make an autumn leaf garland. But they're so fragile that even threading one of them with a thin piece of gold thread basically caused it to just rip in half at the whole end. So I'm not going to do that. I really like them. I think they're so pretty, but if I put them in the oven again with the UV resin on, I think the UV resin's going to melt or discolor or something. So as long as I'm not swinging off them or putting any load on them, they should be okay in a little bowl like this. This is one of the bowls I made earlier this year on my channel. I could do with a bigger one that's not quite so frilly around the edges so that I can actually see more of the leaves in detail. Having spent all that time adding different colours and layers of colour and finishing the tips off with gilding wax and all of that stuff, it's a shame that a load of them are piled underneath all the others. But I'll try to find my other bowl that isn't quite as fluted as this and maybe put them in there. But I think they're really pretty. I just need to figure out why my clay is not curing properly in the oven. Oh, today when I'm doing this voiceover, it is the equinox, so autumn officially begins today, so good timing for this video. Have a great autumn, everybody. Loads more videos coming your way with an autumn Halloween theme, so make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.